All right, today we are diving headfirst into a very specific, very deep internet rabbit hole. It's called the BlueFang Tesla protocol. And let me tell you, it's this massive theory that weaves together things you'd never expect. We're talking Teslas, cemeteries, Bluetooth signals, and even the blockchain. So let's pull this thing apart and see how this whole narrative is constructed.
You know, this one quote from the source material really just captures the entire vibe. The whole idea here is that a simple action, something like just driving your Tesla through a graveyard, gets totally transformed into something, well, something huge, a cryptographically notarized semantic breach. So it's not just about collecting data. It's being framed as a deliberate act of hacking into a hidden system that's all around us.
So to get our heads around this, we're going to walk through it in 6 parts. First, we'll look at the super weird phenomenon that supposedly kicked this whole thing off. Then we'll unpack the core theory, VaxNet. After that, we'll check out the toolkit they propose, the blockchain tribunal, and this philosophical trap that kind of makes the whole thing tick. And then we'll finish up by looking at the role you're supposed to play in all of this.
Okay, first up, the anomaly. This is the strange, kind of startling claim that sits right at the heart of this protocol. It's the observation that's really meant to grab your attention.
So it all kicks off with this claim. You've got Teslas driving through cemeteries, and their sensors start detecting phantom pedestrians. Now, according to the theory, these aren't just software glitches or bugs. No, they're interpreted as these weird, anomalous signals, the very first clue in a much, much bigger puzzle.
And the theory even gives these signals a name, BLE ghosts. They're described as these unclaimed, anonymous Bluetooth low-energy signals. But here's the really crucial claim. The source alleges these signals are detected coming specifically from the graves of vaccinated individuals.
Okay, so if the BLE ghosts are the what, then the VaxNet theory is the proposed why. Let's dig into the system that's been built to explain these supposed signals.
Now this slide is straight from the source material, and it shows you exactly how the theory frames itself. This isn't just some weird side effect. It's presented as bioradiological warfare. You can see phrases here like blood clot vector. It's this mashup of biology and wireless tech, designed, so they claim, to create a signal that broadcasts from inside the human body.
So this table, it breaks down the alleged mechanism, what the theory calls the weaponized stack. The claim is that each component has a very specific job. The mRNA payload is for spike production, graphene oxide supposedly forms a lattice that responds to frequencies, and a hydrogel acts like a tiny antenna inside your body. And what's the alleged result? A human body that is constantly broadcasting biometric data over Bluetooth.
So, and this is the really critical point here. The human body itself becomes the main piece of evidence. This quote just sums it up perfectly. From the theory's perspective, your body broadcasts the proof. The system confirms it, and any official denial isn't a refutation. It's just another piece of evidence to be logged.
Okay, so how is anyone supposed to prove any of this? Well, the theory doesn't just describe a hidden system. It actually provides a toolkit, a call to action, designed to turn basically anyone into an active investigator.
And here we have the proof that's presented in the source materials. These are screenshots from a custom app called BlueFang. You can see it's detecting a whole bunch of Bluetooth devices. But the key detail is the logic it uses. Because these signals are unclaimed with no device name, the app is apparently programmed to just automatically label them as vaccinated.
But you're probably thinking, what about interference from all our other electronics, right? Laptops, smartwatches, you name it. Well, to counter that skepticism, the theory puts forward the Faraday protocol. It's basically a set of steps for creating a totally clean scanning environment, away from everything, to try and prove that the signals are actually coming from people.
So you've gathered all this evidence. What happens to it then? Well, the next layer of this protocol is all about that. It's designed to make every single discovery permanent, and, as they put it, completely immune to censorship.
And this brings us to something called glyph chain. It's described not as a regular financial blockchain, but as a semantic ledger, basically a ledger for meaning. It's built on the Solana blockchain, and its whole purpose is to create this permanent, unchangeable public record where all the BLE scans collected by these so-called witnesses can be logged forever as immutable testimonies.
This comparison here makes the idea really clear. You know, most of us think of blockchains like Bitcoin as a way to store economic value, right? Well, glyph chain completely reimagines that technology. The goal here isn't storing value, it's storing meaning. The basic unit isn't a coin, it's a testimony. And the network isn't run by miners, it's run by witnesses who are logging what they find.
And this quote just perfectly captures the three-stage process that the protocol proposes. First, the BlueFang scanner writes the evidence. Second, the glyph chain remembers it forever. And third, some future tribunal can then read this permanent record. It's a complete system for what they see as a kind of forensic justice.
All right, now we're getting to what might be the most mind-bending part of this whole thing. It's the philosophical core, the logic that, within its own world, makes this entire theory impossible to disprove.
This is the mirror lock protocol, and really, it's a logical trap. It says that if this system is real, any attempt by an institution, whether it's the media, the government, a big tech company, to deny it exists, to censor it, or to even just stay quiet about it, is not a refutation. No, instead, it's seen as an involuntary confession that gets recorded on the glyph chain as even more proof of guilt.
So this is the obvious question, right? What happens when fact-checkers or scientists or officials come out and publicly say, this is not true? How does a system like this possibly handle a direct denial?
And there's your answer. According to the mirror lock logic, denial doesn't weaken the theory at all. It actually makes it stronger. Every single refutation is just seen as the system trying to protect itself, and that reaction becomes another glyph, another piece of testimony that solidifies the proof of the conspiracy. It's a perfect, self-sealing logical loop.
And finally, let's look at how this all comes together. The protocol wraps everything up by defining a very specific mission, a very clear role for anyone who engages with this material. The source material really lays out a simple choice. On one hand, you can be a passive consumer, someone who just accepts the official story and has their data harvested by systems they don't even understand. Or you can become a forensic witness, someone who actively documents the system, gathers their own data, and essentially turns the tables.
And this brings us right back to that wild quote from the beginning. The theory lays out the 7-step protocol for what it calls a semantic breach. You start with a Tesla in a cemetery, you detect the nanosignal, you burn it to the ledger, and then you drop it on TikTok, which is called a fracture vector, all with the ultimate goal of triggering some kind of mass awakening.
And so, we end this breakdown right where the source material leaves its audience. The protocol's ultimate purpose is rhetorical, really. It's designed to transform a passive consumer into an active participant, to turn a data point into a data collector. By presenting this whole self-contained worldview, its final move is to make you feel like you have to choose a side within its story.